So this is Skoda's Enyaq. It is on sale for the last couple of months. In fact, I just drove past a black one on the way up here. And up here is Drogheda, because I've come to meet an owner of an Enyaq to ask them, after a couple of months ownership, are they happy? Did they spec the right things on their car? And if they were specking again, is there anything they wouldn't get or would get over their existing vehicle? So that's coming up later on in the video. I'm also going to test this car on the motorway because I've given it a good run up and down to the north of Ireland, and I've discovered something about motorway driving in the Enyaq, and it's all down to a little envelope of speed, and it has big impacts on it. So we're going to check that stuff out in the video. If you want to look at the original video I shot of the car, this actual car, where I had a look at everything from the really cool rear headrests to is the ice scraper still in the car, and what about the interior? It's all up there, so you can click on that video. Well, today it's about, if you're thinking of ordering an Enyaq, you need to watch this video. So let's check it out. So I've come here to Drogheda in one of the most, as backdrops go, it's pretty spectacular. You can see why you pick here.
It isn't used for very much apart from exercise because it has a very large flight of steps, but it's a good location.
Yeah, I said the Olympians could actually use that to trial. So I met Paddy here this morning because Paddy has bought a Skoda Enyaq, and if you're watching this video wondering, what do I need? What should I get? First of all, brave colour.
Yeah, it was a last minute choice, to be honest, Mark.
They don't still go pink over time, do they?
No, well, I hope not anyway.
Okay, so we got the same alloy wheels. You didn't have it long before one of the wheels had a bit of an injury.
No, but look, you're going to have to suck that up, I think. That's going to be part of the issue of having 21-inch wheels.
But actually, and more people have obviously driven this car than Paddy's car, but at least two of these wheels have also met with curbs.
Yeah, and car parks that are really not nice, city centre car parks.
The margin of error on the lip is very, very slim. Although when I dropped it back the first time, it was perfect. So, talk us through this type of stuff that you decided to spec onto your particular Enyaq.
Well, I guess, look, first things first, I had to pick the larger battery, so I went for the 80. That was my starting point because I wanted the most possible range. Now, the 60 is still fine, probably for most people, but for me, I just wanted that extra range because I do go up and down to Cork quite a bit. From there, really, look, the wheels were always going to be first choice. I just think they look great. Now, as we've said, there is a bit of an issue in terms of city centre car parks and scraping them, but look, they look the part. You're going to get a nick on them, get over it. The second of all was the colours we mentioned. I went for velvet red because I just wanted something that would stand out. From there, then the options really, became down to functionality rather than looks. I went for the sweet leather upholstery because, look, leather it looks good, it's hard wearing, and obviously has that wipe clean. We've kids, so you get spillages and stuff like that. So it's always nice to be able to kind of wipe that clean. We went for the family pack, which has the rear folding trays. It has the USB-C in the rear and the proper rear headrests. What I didn't go for, I suppose, is the electric rear tailgate, which I do regret now, because if you're using it a lot, it is quite a heavy tailgate, so that can be a bit of a problem. So I probably would have gone for that in retrospect. Functionality wise, though, again, I went for the adaptive cruise control, which is part of a package which costs about €800. I do go up and down the motorway to Cork a bit on occasion, and to be able to use adaptive cruise it's great. It makes the journey an awful lot easier. So that was another one I went for. I did go for the tow hitch preparation, which I might not use, but it was more about future proofing the sale of it. But it's nice to have. It's not a very expensive option. And then I went for the fast charging as well, which is a little bit hit or miss for me because I didn't, I probably should have known, but I didn't necessarily know that it doesn't work all the times, that it really tends to work when your battery is very depleted. However, I was at an Ionity point just yesterday and I was getting nearly 110 kilowatts from it, so that was very good. It is an expensive option, so I would say if you don't need it, I use Ionity quite a bit if I'm heading down the motorway. So I do use that fast charging facility, but you know, if you didn't need it, it's quite an expensive option to go for. So really, you know, that's kind of it. The navigation as well was another option, which was part of the wider sort of infotainment system. So it brought the options up to about €8,000 in total. So that is the thing to note about buying an Enyaq. You know, I know if you're looking at the three sort of Volkswagen products, the ID4 probably has the most thrown in, especially, you know, the packs in those are a little bit more clever. So, and especially if you were able to get a hold of one of the first editions, which are really, really well spec'd, but they're all gone at this stage. The Audi, again, you probably do have to spend a little bit more, but while the base price of the Enyaq is good, you do have to spend a lot of money on options. I think the Enyaq is the prettiest, apart from the back. For some reason, I just think that the back looks a little bit too slab-sided, and I don't like this section here. I've seen some commentary online, you know, saying the same thing, and I have to agree in this case.
This car similarly has quite a few options, possibly, you know, a few more than your own. Now that you've owned the car for how many thousand kilometers have you done?
2,500 so far, yeah.
By the way, have you encountered a dodgy charger in that time?
Oh, everywhere, of course. That's par for the course, really. I find Ionity is good. I use Ionity quite a lot because it's fast and it's on the motorways, and it tends not to be blocked by other vehicles.
Yeah.
The ESP network, look, we know it can be hit and miss. I was in Dublin yesterday, staying with a friend, and tried to use a few on street, and then, you know, like one was broken, then moved to another one, and I was getting 5.5 kilowatts out of an on-street one, which in an empty Enyaq is, you know, you'd need to be 9-10 hours. So yeah, it's not much better than putting it into a 3-point plug. So look, there's work to be done there. I think the ESP do their best, but there is still a lot of work to be done. You can't be depending on the street ones. You need to be able to charge at home. I mightn't go for the fast charging because I haven't used it that much, and the fact that you have to make sure the battery is depleted almost entirely before you get the range.
So just for people watching, that's the state of charge. You'll see that sometimes displayed as SOC, and in the ID3 and 4, and a lot of cars, not just specific to them, the state of charge has to be below 15 in the Volkswagen Audi group, 15%. And then if you do have faster charging, you connect it to a high speed, now proper high speed, 100 kilowatt plus, you'll only get that really fast. Obviously it will charge at 47, 50 kilowatts, but you won't get that faster. And have you worked out what is that sweet spot in the Enyaq?
Yeah, it seems to be, if I'm down in terms of range, down below about 40 kilometers, 40, right, 50 kilometers, I can get it quite consistently, but it happens so rarely that I don't know if it's worth the extra money, because it was choosing between that and maybe a sunroof or electric tailgate. I probably would have gone for the electric tailgate, and I probably would have gone for the sunroof on reflection, but it was just that balance between functionality and looks. Now obviously I wanted the wheels and I wanted the colour, and then after that it was right, functionality comes into it, but I probably on retrospect would have gone electric tailgate and sunroof instead. And you know, maybe even sacrificed some of the family pack stuff, which hasn't really been used that much.
So that's the trays on the back of the seats, and there's a nice little pop-out cup holder. I think those things depend on the age of your kids. Yeah. My kids, particularly the young fella who's only 3, loves it. He was scribbling away on a pad the other day driving. But if your kids are a bit older, it's hard to convince them. Oh, it's for your iPad. It's really good, or whatever. Tell us about charging in the back of the vehicle. Do you have to spec extra stuff for USB ports?
Yeah, you do. For the family pack, the USB-Cs are part of that. Right. So they come thrown into that. So look, it's nice to have, and I suppose that if we're on a longer journey, my kids are a bit older, so they do want to charge phones and tablets and the like. So they haven't really used the tables and the blinds so much, but the USB-Cs in the back are essential, really.
Other question, Paddy, I have to ask you as an owner of an Enyaq, everyone wants to know the range. So in summertime with the 80 kilowatt hour battery, you can see 500 plus when it's fully charged. I drove my car yesterday, or Skoda, Ireland's car, to Jonesborough. Now I did 120 kilometers an hour, maybe even 125 at points. I used the cruise control and I achieved 25 kilowatts per 100 kilometers, which is high. Like if you're tipping around town, you might get 17, 18. There was a headwind, there was rain. It was like the worst conditions for an EV. and I left my house with 330 kilometers, but on a barely 200 kilometer round trip, it was nearly half of, like, it was really, really heavy consumption.
Yeah, like long term, since I've got the car, I'm averaging 17.7 kilowatts. But look, it depends obviously on how you drive it. The big thing for me, on especially on motorway driving, is driving at 100 rather than 120.
Massive.
It's a huge difference. Yeah. Now, I had owned an e-Golf before, so I had, you know, proper range anxiety, and I just got into a routine of driving on the M50 at rush hour and driving at 90, 100 kilometers per hour, and it made a huge, huge difference. So with this car, look, I think, you know, there's a tipping point for people. Some people need the range to go over a certain kilometre. For me, anything over 300 is perfect. Yeah. This car, well, no matter what you do, aircon on, driving it at 120, no matter what you do, it's going to get over 400. So for me, it works. So as an EV owner, I have stopped worrying about range because I know it will do enough. And for me, anything north of 300 consistently was enough. But yeah, look, those tips, motorway driving at 100 rather than 120. Aircon is a massive consumer. You know that. I haven't had the car in winter yet. I know you drove it in a different scenario. But
yeah, well, the ID4 I did drive in like 2 degrees, and the fully charged range was 300. That was also the large, the 78 kilowatt hour battery. What I just found, and you touched on it there, the difference, and that's one of the arguments from not anti-EV people, but people who are curious and maybe watching this. You know, I can drive my petrol on my diesel car at 120 and it doesn't matter.
I would argue it does matter. You know, I drove a diesel, say a Tarraco recently, and just as an experiment driving it home from Cork, I drove it at 100 rather than 120, and the range absolutely doubled. And there could be, you know, there's range in a diesel car as well. And what was indicating was that I wouldn't get home. So I changed the behaviour. I set the cruise control to 100, and I arrived home with 40 kilometres left. So yeah, there is. It's just the fact that with petrol or diesel, you become complacent about how you can refuel it. You just think, oh yeah, fine, I can just put more in. Yeah. Whereas this, it's a more critical issue if you run out.
I did see a Nissan Leaf on the M1 yesterday, a new one, fairly new, going onto a low loader, so I can only assume that person took that gamble and didn't adapt their speed accordingly. But it's something to just bear in mind. If you are looking at an EV and you haven't driven before, it really is, it's a massive difference. Even at 100 kilometers an hour on the motorway with a bit of a headwind, that car was doing nearly 5 kilowatt hours per 100 better. The difference between 100 and 120, it's massive. Paddy, at the start of this video today, I put up a little Insta poll, Velvet Red versus Quartz Grey. Would you like to know the poll results?
I think I imagine I know the result, but let's see.
Yeah, I have to say, like, I think that red is quite striking. At the moment, we're at 23% red to 77% grey, which seems harsh. That's very harsh. Let us know in the comments below. Which would you be brave enough to go for a brighter colour like the red? Also, that blue, I think it's electric blue.
Yeah,
possibly the colour of it.
Nice.
It looks really.
Quartz grey
really
is a very safe choice, though. In fairness, it is a safe choice.
Absolutely.
If you're you know, in terms of residual values, etc. This might be a bit more polarising. But
he's always thinking ahead. Hitch bars that he doesn't use.
Yeah.
Faster charging that sometimes he uses.
Yeah, you're
the day you buy is the day you sell.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm now scooting back on the M1 to Dublin just to briefly run through the driving dynamics of the Enyaq if you haven't watched a video review of driving one already, although I'm sure you have. It's a 200 brake horsepower rear wheel drive car. It's uneventful to drive. I mean, if you really try and push it through corners, you're going to quickly feel the wrath of its weight. It's really about having an electric car that will do decent range and can carry your family, you know, and that's kind of where this space of EV is now really starting to take off in Ireland. The ID4, the success of that car is kind of proven that there's massive demand for these types of vehicles, and I'm sure once the allocation, once Skoda can get more of these cars into Ireland in the next calendar year, you'll see more and more of them. I'm going to nip off now and try and get some quick charging into this car. At €57,000, there should be fast charging on this car, and I'm about to find out if there is. or if there isn't, because the state of charge is now 10%. So plugging this into an Ionity, if it has fast charging, should very, very quickly charge. If it was me speccing an Enyaq, I would definitely go for the adaptive cruise control that can read signs ahead. It knows when you're coming into different zones. The packs that give you blind spot and some of the other safety tech, I think that's really important. The faster charging, I get that, you know, you're probably going to have to sacrifice a glass roof over it. I think I'd still rather have it. I mean, I'd rather have both. I'd need to probably have the car for a bit longer to really see which do I use more. You're always going to use the roof because it lets in lovely bits of light and all that stuff. You mightn't use faster charging as much. And certainly in my immediate radius of where I live, there are no 100 kilowatt chargers. So the max I could charge is at 50 anyway. Even if I can't get super fast charging out of this Ionity, I should be able to go from 10% to 25% in about 15 minutes. That's pretty reasonable, I would have thought. So I've pulled into the Ionity charger at City North here in Dublin. I've been trying to determine if this car has fast charging or not, and the fact that I've been sitting here easily 10 minutes now and I've gone from 10 to 20%, it would seem like it doesn't have fast charging, unlike Paddy's car. Now, if you are doing motorway driving a lot, I would recommend getting fast charging over the sunroof. It is nice, but I'm now sitting here twice as long as someone who doesn't have faster charging. I hope the fact that he's pointed out some of the things he maybe missed the boat on and some options that maybe he wouldn't actually spec if he was going again will help you decide what you might be looking at in your Enyaq if you're interested in the car. I think in total Ireland got something like 350 Enyaqs delivered to Ireland in 2021. There will be more. I think the figure was 1,500 for next year, so they are still a hard car to get. And there's a Tesla pulled up beside me charging here now with Ionity also. And when I came out of the restroom, the passengers were having a good look around this car. So it is certainly a car that's sparking a lot of interest in people, but they're just quite hard to get. So maybe that's the rarity factor which entices people to have a little look through the glass. Other Enyaq owners, if you want to share your experiences with some prospective buyers as well, that would greatly help. And of course, helping us out on the channel, whether that's a Patreon subscription, subscribing to us, liking and sharing the video, it all really helps. And if you like these style of videos where we kind of go a bit more in depth with a car, a particular model, and find out what's it like to live with and different aspects of charging and stuff, let us know if you like those style of video. A massive thanks to Paddy as well for sharing his experiences so far with his lovely Velvet, even if the poll on Instagram didn't say so, Skoda Enyaq. Thanks for watching.